Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Lone Star Dowsers monthly meeting. I'm Mary Lindsay Wilson, and we have a very special speaker tonight, Gwen Foster, who's near and dear to my heart. I've been working with Gwen or taking classes from Gwen. Did we figure out how long it had been? More than 15 years, a long time,
More than 15.
a long time. She's amazing. I'll tell you a little bit about her background, just for those of you that may not be familiar with Gwen.
I'm sorry to interrupt for a minute. Mary, have you started the recording?
I did. Does it not show? It says it's recording.
Oh, it does. Okay, I don't see that it is. Okay, good. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. That's okay. Well, better to record than not to record. Okay. Gwen is a Hannah Kroger practitioner. She's a certified master neuro-linguistic programming practitioner. That's kind of a mouthful. NLP, for those of you that don't know. She's also an NLP hypnotherapist. She's a certified biofeedback technician and a personal coach. She's got a whole ton of modalities that she's done, different energy things, SRT, EFT, ECR. She received her Bachelor of Natural Health Studies with highest honors from the Clayton College of Natural Health back in 2003. And she also is, I think you're like an inventor of New Vision, which is a pretty incredible technology to help clients identify blocks and imbalances. And it just does a host of other things that are really remarkable. Her personal passion is working on underlying emotional conflicts and the triggers for that. And she really ties in the work of Dr. Hammer and Michael Lincoln. She uses herbs, homeopathy, flower essences, essential oils, nutrition, all sorts of things. And actually, Gwen got into this because she had health issues. She had asthma and lupus and chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, and suffered from allergies and insomnia, acid reflux, shingles. So that was really a catalyst for her to get into natural health. So anyway, there's a lot more that I could say, but I want Gwen to talk because she is such an amazing person, and she's got so much information that will be very helpful to everybody. So welcome, Gwen.
Thanks, Mary. I don't remember when I met you exactly. I don't remember the year, but I do remember one of my first memories of you was when we met Dr. Emoto in Houston. And if we could figure out what year that was, do you have any idea what year that was when he came to Houston?
I have a Facebook photo of us. It was before then because it was at your office on TC Jester. When I
I know it was before then, but if that would be a good year reference, because it was probably, we had to have known each other to
say early 2000s.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm bad with years because it just seems like it's all flying by, it like goes so quick. So when you asked me to be the speaker this month, I was already planning on doing a talk about lockdown and mood stuff. And like today, I had 2 clients. So if you don't mind, I'll just get right into the topic. Is that fine? Okay. Yeah. So I love the Dowsers. I love this group because everyone is really gifted and talented. And I want to talk about something that I think is very prevalent and give you some solutions. You can use this information with other people's techniques, like using Raymond's problem package or using the just simple counterclockwise to undo or clockwise to add, whatever you want to do to help somebody. We'll get more into that in a minute. But what I always think is you have to first know really what's wrong? What's going on that is causing the problem? And so I'm getting a lot of calls right now from people, both people that have had depression that now it's worse. And a lot of kids, under 18. And I'm getting also a lot of calls from people who've never had depression and anxiety. And now they have it, like, if you want to say 0 to 10, they're at like a 5 to 10. And these are people that tell me they've never, ever dealt with this before. And so I think it's a good subject because so many people are afflicted, and it may not be you guys on the call, but you guys might know somebody that's affected. And then that's important, you know, to offer solutions. And so what I did is I put together a PowerPoint of, you know, what I see as the top factors and the top issues. And I am going to go back and share my screen real quick so that I can show you guys just some things. For anyone that's not a dowser, I mean, it's kind of on a Zoom call, a little bit hard to teach dowsing. I think it's not hard to do dowsing, but I'm going to see if this works when I say share screen. Can you see my screen, Mary?
Yes.
Okay, so dowsing is not hard. And if you don't know how to dowse, if you're new to dowsing, there's lots of YouTube videos, especially, I mean, like everyone has a YouTube video on dowsing at this point. But what I have up is a percentage chart, and this is the chart I like to use. I've been dowsing for 20 years, well, more than 20, but I have the charts in my brain now. I don't need a chart on a piece of paper because I know my yes is up and down and my no is side to side. And then I know if I want to get a percentage that all the way to the left is a 0 and all the way to the right's 100, and straight up and down, like perpendicular, would be basically 50%. So basically then you have to kind of extrapolate, okay, well, is this 75% at a 45 degree or 135 degree? But it is helpful to have a visual if you're new to dowsing so that you can put your pendulum over the chart. And why this is important is as I'm talking tonight, I would like you guys to keep that in mind. These charts are all over the internet. You don't have to go pay for anything. Just go to dowsing charts. I typed in percentage dowsing chart. You can print one of these and have it handy tonight if you like. But basically, when I'm talking about something, especially if you feel affected by what I'm talking about, douse it for yourself. Decide how relative this is for you, like this particular thing, let's say dopamine deficiency. And also when we get to solutions, douse the solutions. How much, you know, the question I ask for solutions is always, how much better will, I mean, how much will this positively impact the person, or how much better will I feel after taking this remedy? I don't personally buy remedies unless they're over like 70%. If I check a remedy and I got a 30%, I'm not buying that remedy for myself because it's just not probably the best choice. So my rule of thumb is 70 as far as buying products. If it's under 70, I don't do it. But if you're affected, we're going to, as I get into this, you're going to see that sometimes it's depression and sometimes it's low energy and sometimes it's other things. So we got to first figure out what's going on, you know, with people that might think they have depression, but it's not just depression. This topic is about depression, other mood disorders, anxiety, and also how this all impacts the body. You know, it's like this big, like, think of a big spider web, you know, you're just pulling at the pieces to try to undo the web. But sometimes there's more than one thing, you know, because another thing people have been contacting me a lot more lately, percentage wise, is people worried they have Alzheimer's or they have dementia or their brain isn't working as good as it used to. So that's not really depression, but you know, it's a lot, it's still in the brain category. And some of these people don't have any family history of Alzheimer's or dementia, but they're just saying, man, my brain, just like in the last year, it's just not the same. And so sometimes that is depression, but people don't think it's depression, and sometimes it's something else. So we'll talk about that too, because that right now is really, really prevalent. So Mary, can you still see my screen?
We can.
Okay, good. So I'm going to start from the beginning. And this is not to diagnose, you know, or treat or anything. I have to say that, but I'm going to tell you, this is like for self-help, like self-help 101. Okay, so the first question, and these are things, again, you can douse. Am I tired or am I depressed? Okay, so sometimes there's people don't know the difference. Sometimes people don't want to get out of their chair. Okay, is that because their energies? I used to have chronic fatigue. I used to spend my whole day trying to get rested. I used to, you know, sleep over 12 hours a day, and I still was tired. I didn't think I was depressed. I knew I was tired, and I never wasn't tired. You know, that this was back in the late 80s and early 90s. So I get it. But if you're like in the chair and you don't want to go take a shower, or you don't want to brush your teeth or get dressed, or do any of those things, you still have to figure out, is this energy or is this depression? Because they're different. But sometimes they feel a lot the same, you know, because if someone's asking you, like, do you want to go out and do things, like, do you want to go to the Renaissance Festival, or do you want to go shopping, or do you want to go to an art thing? And that's something you normally would like to do, but now you're saying no. I get it with COVID. That's a different ball game, but things are starting to open up. But if it just seems like too much trouble, or no, I don't feel like it, then there's something going on. Like, you need to address it, you know, because that's not good. Then that would be either low energy or depression. If you don't have the energy to leave the house, sometimes people don't even have the energy to get dressed to leave the house. I mean, that's another example. Don't have the energy to start a project. Like, some people that I talk to are just like getting through each day. You know, they're getting up, they have enough energy to make their coffee. They have enough energy to get food or groceries delivered, but they're not really initiating anything. They're not like going, what can I do today? What can I start? What did I not do 6 months ago that, you know, whatever. And then maybe they start something but don't finish them. Now, sometimes people have this, and it's nothing obviously to do with COVID or lockdown. You know, some of these issues were pre-COVID lockdowns, so you have to consider that too. Nothing sounds like fun anymore. And sometimes people are telling me, and I hear this from people that are friends, are using COVID as an excuse not to do things. You know, it is a good excuse, you know, like your family get together. No, you know, I don't want to because of COVID. You may not just want to go hang out with your family. I get that too. That's kind of a different issue, because but if you're using it as an excuse to everything, even the stuff that you would normally enjoy doing, then there's some underlying problem there. You know, like, I have a friend who told me, she was very honest. She said, you know, I kind of like COVID because I don't have to go anywhere. You know, and I'm like, okay, well, we need to look at that, you know, because there's some underlying thing going on there. I mean, you know, you know what I'm talking about. So some of the specific COVID challenges are mask, obviously, social isolation, kids not going to school, not enough exercise, travel challenges, holiday challenges. Working from home can be awesome, but it can also be like being in a rut, you know, especially if you don't have to do Zoom calls and you don't have to get dressed. And then very reduced social interactions. There's also dating challenges if you're single, co-parenting challenges with kids going between parents, and then negativity, oh my goodness, on news and social media, politics. I mean, that's over the top. And if you're like a sensitive or empathic person, you know, like, I would say, don't turn on the TV, don't turn on that stuff, because that's just gonna, let's say you're here and you're almost stable, and then that's gonna take you into the hole. So it's like, you have to kind of think about what you're doing each day. Is it putting you in the hole, or is it uplifting you? If it's putting you in the hole, you need to do something different. You know, I mean, the world is not going to end without you knowing it. Like, some people say, well, I got to watch the news. No, you don't, because it's the same crap every day. And if the world, trust me, if the world's coming to an end, someone's going to call you and let you know specifically. Then lack of nursing home and assisted living visits. My brother is in this situation. He hasn't had visits in a year this month. Lack of elderly people interactions with family, because they're the most at risk. They're a lot of times dealing with depression and stuff that they never had to deal with. And just lack of hugs and affection. I'm a hugger. Everybody knows I'm a hugger. And no one's coming to see me and hugging me anymore. You know, I used to get my hugs several times a day. And now it's like, even when I do get people to come see me in person, they're like, yeah, no hug. And a few people, but not near like what I'm used to. So that's kind of a big deal, even between family members. I went to my own family Christmas, and there were 2 babies like in the family that had just been born. And my sister's husband's daughter would not let anyone 6 feet from that kid. And I was like, okay, I just went to the other baby and grabbed it. I didn't even ask permission because it's my nephew. But, you know, these babies too are just like not getting the attention from the aunts and uncles and grandparents and stuff that they would normally get. So this is also weird. It's causing increased feelings of despair, depression, anxiety, dread, suicide. Some people have the feeling that things will never get back to normal or never go back to normal, and also confusion. And confusion is where I think people are getting with the dementia and the Alzheimer's stuff. There's also increased feelings of skepticism, blame, feeling like a victim, sadness, grief, hopelessness, and anger. I mean, it's not just depression, it's all of these things, you know, bundled into one. And most people know this, but humans are social by nature. Hermits are not the norm. There are hermits in the world that really enjoy being hermits, but that's probably a very small percentage of the population. It's actually considered torture to be put in isolation as a punishment. I mean, that is like in prison, that's your punishment, is to be put in isolation or in a concentration camp. And studies show that people will go crazy after a certain amount of time in isolation. So that's kind of what we're talking about here, you know, people going crazy. Humans thrive in churches, communities, schools, support groups, tribes, active neighborhoods, senior centers, and gyms. Anything that you're with like-minded people thrive. That's how we, you know, like build our energy up. I want to talk about some of the body. This has to do with German New Medicine mostly, but I want to talk about, you know, fear and separation and just that, the health symptoms that this can affect, because this isn't over with. I mean, first of all, Texas is lucky, but do you know what? I mean, for those of you not in Texas, you know, we're famous on the news, just like Florida, that we don't have to wear a mask. But guess what? Everywhere you go, you have to have a mask. You go to Walgreens, they still require a mask. You go to Costco, they require a mask. I mean, everywhere you go is still a mask. So just because it's on the news and it's not required doesn't mean that the retail stores have followed suit, because there's so many people that are, we want a mask. It's not safe to be around people that don't have a mask. My opinion is, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't. But that's not how the retail stores, they're not asking me my opinion. But there's certain issues that have to do with fear and separation. Some people that are glued to CNN and certain news channels that are fear mongering, they're the ones that want to double mask and triple mask and yell at people that don't have a mask. I mean, it's beyond ridiculous. But the more uptight you are with fear and having these like separation issues from whatever it is you're separated from, kids, grandkids, dating, whatever it is, if it has to do with your house or work, you know, basically your territory, this is bladder issues. So this is incontinence, UTIs, increased or decreased urination, cystitis, any of those kind of conditions. Any of these conditions, if these came on through COVID, there's some emotional thing probably linking you to this condition. Just general fear of survival, fear of not having enough money, fear of losing your job. Maybe you already lost your job and you don't know if you're going to lose your house. This is edema, kidney stones, lower back pain, anything related to kidneys, any renal issues. And then if you're literally separated, like even people that were maybe dating, but they were scared to, you know, they're living in two different households, especially when things were really strict. This is always about skin issues. Skin issues are about feeling separated. So herpes, shingles, lupus, eczema, psoriasis, these would be flare-ups in this last year. And then heart, like heartbreak, you know, like a broken heart, but related to just everything going on. This is heart disease, heart attack, circulatory disorders. And then the grief is congestion, COPD, asthma, bronchitis, and then COVID itself. COVID is a respiratory condition. So when people are feared and panicked and I'm going to get COVID, I'm sure I'm going to get COVID, so-and-so got COVID, guess what? They're going to get COVID. It's a respiratory distress, and it's caused by grief, and it's caused by all this other stuff. So I've heard of a few people that literally did not leave their house. I mean, it's possible they got it through contaminated groceries, but I don't believe that were tested COVID positive. Either the test was a false positive, which I totally think is possible, or it was emotional, you know? So even like SARS and the other COVID type, this is not the first virus of this type that's come along. But sometimes it's almost like when someone's convinced they're going to get breast cancer because their mother and grandmother had breast cancer, and then they do get breast cancer. Did they create it, or was it genetic? I personally don't think there's a difference there, but that's me. Okay. So the next one, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about this, but I am going to tell you, I am, like Mary said, a German New Medicine practitioner. And in German New Medicine, this is not over, like I said, because in German New Medicine, there's a resolution phase. So I do want to explain this, because if you start having symptoms as your area starts opening up, this is actually normal. So I'm just going to give you a brief explanation of this. During fight or flight, during this crisis, our body does certain things. It acts a certain way. Like maybe we don't sleep as good, or our digestion isn't as good, or things are not happening right because of being in fight or flight. But as soon as we go, everything's fine, we're okay, we're going to make it, a whole nother set of issues come along, because the body goes into pathogen mode to eat up the stuff that's developed over the fight or flight time. This could be cancers. This could be other bodily functions working or overworking, or you just want to sleep. You're just super tired. That's like parasympathetic mode, which means your body's like a bear hibernating. It's in recovery mode. So whenever someone's been in an active conflict, whether it's a divorce, a bad marriage, COVID, whatever, as soon as there's a resolution, and I mean a complete resolution, not none of this nonsense that's going on right now, but a complete resolution, the body then goes into repair phase, and it's a whole nother thing. So if you look up on the internet, parasympathetic symptoms, you'll see that there's a whole bunch of them. And one of the main ones is fatigue. You just can't get it. You just can't get your act together. And that's a different issue than the depression, low energy thing now. I know that's hard to understand. That would be a whole nother talk, a whole nother hour and a half on German New Medicine, really understanding it. But what I want to say is, in resolution phase, when we take a deep breath of relief, things are actually more likely to go wrong based on what and where you have been most distressed about. It's unfair, but this is the deal. Your amplitude of stress. Okay, so let's say my worry about COVID is this much. My worry about COVID is actually this much. Okay, but let's say someone else, theirs is this much. Their likelihood of having a resolution phase conflict that's significant is much higher than mine. The more we get stressed out, the more we react to what's on the news, the more we're like, talking about it to all of our friends and bitching about it. And we're on Facebook and we're trolling people and whatever. All that is bundled into your health, like it or not. But the more distressed and fearful you are when everything goes back to normal, the more likely you are to have something else. So my advice is keep it under control and don't put yourself in situations that are going to make you flare up, because it's not good for your health, I can promise. Okay, so let's talk about nutrition, because I don't think this is just a COVID thing, but during COVID, a lot of people, I think, you would think that people eating at home are eating better. Like I would think this. I think people are eating at home more than they used to, and they would be eating healthier. They're not. Eating at home may be a bag of Cheetos and a glass of wine. It may be, takeout from whatever, McDonald's delivery, or, whoever delivers. I know people that don't still cook at home. They just get everything delivered. So, a lot of pizzas, a lot of stuff that is inexpensive and, stuff like that. So what happens then is, when we're talking about nutrition, we have to say, okay, are we getting all the foods our body needs to function properly? So I always talk about whole food nutrition, getting nutrition from foods when possible. Beef in particular has all the amino acids. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. If you don't eat beef, you have to supplement amino acids and iron. You can't not do that. People think that, complete proteins are beans and rice. That's just BS. I'm sorry, I'd say it how I feel it. But beans and rice are not a complete protein. That's just some crazy thing that someone said that has made it around for a lot of time. They're not equal. Fatty fish like salmon is great for the brain and great for brain function and the heart and arteries and all that good stuff. If you don't eat fish, if you don't like fish, or fish isn't on your diet because you're vegan, then you need to supplement the EFAs, the omega-3, DHEA, and EPA. And then you should have at least 6 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. 1 serving equals 1 piece of fruit or 1 cup of vegetables. Some people think that's a lot. Some people think it should be 10 cups. So if that's hard for you, then you should consider a veggie fruit powder or capsule like Juice Plus, or I have Tonic Alchemy, which is a green powder that I like, or juicing is another option. Some people eat no fruits or vegetables all day, and that's definitely not good, because that has to do with your battery and your everything is based on your minerals and how your body absorbs, those kind of proteins. from protein, there's 22 amino acids, but there's 4 that affect your mood and brain. There's serotonin, glutamine, dopamine, and acetylcholine. I'm going to go into each one of these in detail. This is where I kind of want you to start dowsing. As I go through each section, like serotonin deficiency, douse, ask, how much is this a percentage affecting you? And like I'm dowsing right now, I'm actually getting from me more than 50% on serotonin. I'm getting like 60%. I already take 5-HTP. Wow. But if you have a number over like 50, you should consider this would be good for you. And then the list is just going to be things that, if your number's over 50, you're also going to have a lot of symptoms on this list. So serotonin causes people to be, if you're deficient, causes people to be impulsive. It causes anxiety or depression, insomnia, can't stay asleep or fall asleep. It can cause aggression, low self-esteem, irritability, a poor appetite, but craving comfort foods. So this person who says, I'm not hungry, but then they go eat a bag of pretzels, so that's that. Poor memory. Brain tracking. I always have to explain this one because this is something that Dr. Nancy White in Houston told me, that when people are low in serotonin, their brain has like neural ruts. And it's actually almost impossible to start a new good habit. Like if you have these neural ruts, you can't, you can say, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna start jogging. You don't start jogging. Tomorrow I'm gonna stop eating whatever. You don't stop. I'm gonna not eat chocolate anymore. You don't stop eating chocolate, because in the neural ruts, you're gonna do exactly what you always do. And so you don't even have free will of your own thinking. When people cannot start new habits, there's always a serotonin deficiency. It's related to eating disorders, obsessive compulsive disorder, panic disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and social anxiety disorder. So this is what happens. People come into me and they say, I have, like, let's say they're manic, or let's say they have PTSD. I'm like, okay, do they have that? Yes, maybe they had something happen in their life, or maybe they're just serotonin deficient. Because if they had serotonin deficiency and they had a PTSD event, they're not going to get out of that rut, you see. They can't move on because they're stuck in a rut. So you have to always consider nutrition first, always, always, always. Okay, glutamine is one that's very common to have as a deficiency. I see this in a lot of kids, and this is having to do with memory, focus, concentration, busy brain, anxiety, worry. Also can't fall asleep, but this is more like busy brain, like you're thinking too much. Gastrointestinal symptoms like irritable bowel syndrome, diarrhea, leaky gut, and ulcer conditions. Increased sugar and alcohol cravings, poor workout recovery, and glutamine levels are directly affected by MSG. So if you have restaurant foods, you're going to be getting those MSG receptor sites. We'll see in the brain, there's little receptor sites, like Pac-Man little things. And glutamine and glutamate, as far as the brain is concerned, is the same. So if MSG gets there first from your chicken tenders from Chick-fil-A, it's filled the receptor site. So now when glutamine comes along, it can't go anywhere. These brain cells start firing and literally fire themselves to death. So number one, dementia and Alzheimer's a lot of times is triggered by MSG consumption. But number two, even when you have little kids that are living on Chick-fil-A, they can't, they're going to be put on Ritalin or Adderall or something because they can't think straight. And that's just possibly an MSG reaction. And then glutamine benefits are muscle growth, improves skin tone, they boost immunity, boost brain function, promotes weight loss, supports cancer therapy because it decreases the side effects of chemotherapy, and it improves athletic performance. So if you haven't done it yet, I want you to douse glutamine. How much is this an impact on your life? And then the dangers of aspartame and MSG, because they have the same effect on the brain. I definitely would recommend not having any foods or drinks that have these. The reference for this is a book called Excitotoxins, The Taste That Kills by Dr. Blaylock. Mary, I hate to do this, but I have to get up for 1 second because of Eddie. Hold on 1 second.
Sure. So have you guys doused? I don't know about you, but I definitely am serotonin and glutamine deficient. So I'm looking forward to hearing what Gwen has to say to help us kind of balance out. And if you have any questions for Gwen, please put your questions in the chat, and we'll have a chance for questions when Gwen's finished with her presentation. Hi, Susie.
Okay, I apologize. He might just be barking there for a minute.
You
Okay,
are going
so
to tell us solutions, right? Once we
yeah, we're going to get to solutions, and we're going to check those too. So these are known neurotoxins, but they were approved by the FDA anyway. That's MSG or aspartame. They compete for the glutamine uptake, which I just described. They can cause ADD and ADHD symptoms. They're the #1 cause of Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. They can affect learning, comprehension, and retention for all ages, not just kids. They can affect sleep patterns. They can cause headaches and migraines, and they're commonly found in fast food, restaurant food, packaged food, frozen meals, battered foods, dipping sauces, salad dressings, flavored chips, and diet drinks. So if you're eating out, you're pretty much getting MSG. I've talked to people that work at restaurants, and they've literally told me every single item on the menu has MSG. And I'm not just talking about Chinese food. I'm talking about like normal restaurants, like a Chili's, like a, regular casual Applebee's kind of place. So it's hard to avoid. Okay, the next one I want you to check is acetylcholine, how much it's affecting you. Acetylcholine is high, choline in general is high in egg yolks. But if you don't have acetylcholine, or if you have deficiency, it can cause muscle weakness, myasthenia gravis, which is a autoimmune condition, Alzheimer's, memory loss, decline in cognitive function, fatty liver and liver cell death, mood swings, and bipolar and manic episodes. Okay, so check that one, acetylcholine, see what percentage you might be affected. Okay, and then dopamine is probably the second most common next to serotonin. This is a big one. Lack of motivation, depression, mild to clinical depression, addictive tendencies or addictive personality, weight gain, oversleeping and trouble waking up in the morning, low sex drive, procrastination, hard to start and finish projects, restless leg, Parkinsonian tremors. And then, so there's, okay, this one's you have to check both dopamine deficiency and dopamine excess. Okay, there's two. Dopamine excess is aggression, schizophrenic or schizotypal personality disorders, anxiety, ADD and ADHD, difficulty sleeping, paranoia, mania, stress, inability to learn or concentrate, excess energy, and libido, like an overactive sex drive. Overactive, like meaning hyperactive. Dopamine excess can also cause poor impulse control, addictive behavior such as gambling and binge eating, and addictive dopamine sources are smoking cigarettes, caffeine, alcohol, opiates, chocolate, kratom, to name a few. So sometimes when people do too much of smoking cigarettes or too much alcohol, you'd have to eat a lot of chocolate to get too much, but people will do a combination of these things. Like they'll drink a lot of wine and eat a lot of chocolate, and they can flip between dopamine deficiency to go to dopamine excess. So you should check both. Are you affected by dopamine deficiency or affected by dopamine excess? And then there's specific challenges having to do with vegans and vegetarians. I'm not against being a vegan, but most people don't know how to be a vegan properly because they just think when you don't eat meat, you're a vegan. And some people are junk food vegans, like literally you should hear their diets. It's awful. Many vegetarians don't get enough protein. Beans and lentils do not equal beef protein. I'll show you that slide in a second. Beans and rice are not a complete protein. Generally, they have a more limited diet, and they generally have more protein, EFA, and amino acid deficiencies than non-vegans. I always tell people, and I'm not going to get into blood type too much tonight, but I always tell people, if I have 100 people come to my door with depression and anxiety, 95% of those are going to be non-beef eaters, vegans, or blood type A or AB. I mean, that's a big percentage. And I've asked every client of mine what their blood type is for 20 years. So I have a pretty good handle on how many are in this category. So I'm not just saying this because I read this on some website. I'm saying this out of, practical experience. So here's the beef versus beans. This is the amino acids in beef. Those are your amino acids in lentils. So if someone's saying, well, lentils are protein and they live off lentils. Let's say a lot of people in the Indian culture live off lentils. They're not getting what their brain needs. This isn't even close. And beef has more amino acids than chicken or fish or soy or any protein. So you can look them up and see, but this is what everybody says is with the complete protein. They think a complete protein just means it's a protein, and you need to look up all the amino acids. The same thing, I was going to pull it up, but I didn't. The same thing with protein powders. Some protein powders only have 5 or 6 amino acids. To really be a good protein powder, they need to have all 22. So one of the protein powders I recommend to people is vegan, what is it called? Total Vegan. I'll grab it before we get done tonight. And it's by Medica, and it does have all the amino acid in there. And a lot of people are doing like a protein powder that's either whey or green pea protein. They're just not complete. So even though you think you're doing a good thing with a protein powder, look at the label, because it's going to list your amino acids. If it doesn't have at least 20 of 22, I would switch protein powders. And then I've already kind of said this, but the challenges for blood type A and AB are beef is an avoid food for them. They generally don't digest beef or heavier proteins and fats. They need a digestive enzyme with hydrochloric acid and bile, or they tend not to like meat or have an aversion to meat protein. They tend to be more vegetarian naturally, and they're more prone to mood, learning, and mental challenges. And this is, like I said, from observation. So for feeding the brain, this is what my list is. If you're not getting all of these regularly, then this is where you need to make some changes, because a lot of this, I know it's situational. Everybody's going to say that. Well, it's situational. But why would an O that eats beef be in the same situation as someone else that's not eating beef, and they're not in the same mental boat? Do you see what I mean? Like everybody thinks, oh, it's what happened to me as a kid, or it's whatever happened to me with my marriage or whatever. I promise you, it's always not that. You think it's that, but you have to look at the nutrition first to rule that out. So the first thing is amino acids. The second thing is essential fatty acids. Lecithin is great for the brain. It's basically a fat, and it's good for the brain. Good fats such as coconut oil, olive oil, and butter. Minerals and vitamins, like basically a full spectrum, like something like Intramax. The other thing that affects the brain is circulation, like herbs like ginkgo biloba for peripheral circulation. And then any kind of blood oxygen products like chloroxygen or azo-oxygen, because our head and brain are peripheral. So just like if you get cold hands and feet, or they get numb or tingly, or they fall asleep easily, guess what? It's happening up here too. Your brain is actually uphill from your heart. It has to pump harder to go uphill than downhill to your legs. So if people have, issues with their legs with circulation, you're going to definitely have brain and mood issues, because it's harder to go uphill. And that's just kind of a logical thing. And then specific challenges for children are their limited diets, they're picky eaters, fast food, microwave food, packaged food, excess EMFs and radiation from tablets and cell phones, messing with their brain. And then just generally low in all the things that they should be eating. Like if the kid doesn't want to eat salmon or fish, guess what? They're going to be low in EFAs. So I even have some clients that, like they come to me, they need help with their kids, and I tell them what to do, and then the kids won't take the supplements either. Well, there's no magic. There's like, if they're not going to eat those foods and they're not going to take the supplements, there is like no way around this to get better, because that's like, something that just has to be addressed. And then other challenges for kids are, the vaccines and the triple vaccines, the low immune systems, the medications for learning disorders, which are basically amphetamines. They're not getting real nutritious food. Sometimes it's because the parents are busy, or the parents don't like to cook. And if the parents are eating out, the kid is definitely eating out. Supplements are necessary, but sometimes that's a challenge. I get it. Chicken tenders and dipping sauces are loaded with MSG, and parents are in control. Really, I know that parents don't feel like they're in control when their kid's a picky eater, but guess what? If it takes starving the kid, they'll start changing their habits. But you got to start those habits when they're young, because if they get to high school and they're driving their own car and they have a part-time job, there is no control over what they're eating at that point. And you can be creative with kids for nutrition, like, hiding veggies like spinach and kale, bananas, things like that in smoothies. Chocolate protein shakes is like probably the easiest thing because a lot of the good ones taste like Carnation Instant Breakfast, which tastes pretty yummy to kids. Have fresh fruit available for snacks and for a sweet tooth instead of sweets. They have veggie ketchup now. Like I didn't even know this, but they actually have vegetables. Like it'd be like a V8, like the ketchup. You can hide veggies in marinara sauce because it kind of hides the taste. You know, you can cook down veggies and add them to things that they do like mac and cheese. You can add ground beef to things like mac and cheese, quesadillas, spaghetti. I think it was, never mind, I can't even think of the reference right now, so I'm not going to bring it up. You can use high protein or keto macaroni and pancake mix to get extra nutrition. There's supplements made for kids that are flavored for kids, like fish oil, and Intramax has a raspberry flavor. And then things like homemade lemonade or limeade with other fruits added, but no sugar, like you can use stevia or other ways to get the fruits. And I mean, most kids don't dislike fruit. Fruit's not the problem, it's the veggies, but you're still getting minerals from fruit. And then, so when people ask me, why isn't my brain working? Or they're concerned about Alzheimer's or dementia, you know, these are the questions I get. Am I getting Alzheimer's like my grandfather? I can't remember SHIT. Do I have ADD? My kid doesn't remember anything I tell him. I'm losing things constantly. I'm scared because other people are starting to notice how bad my memory is. I'm scared I'll lose my job. My brain seems very tired. I mean, these are things that people tell me. So there's a real thing about stress in the brain. And, you know, like we all know, like, you know, in school, we study for a test, right? And then we go take the test, but we can't remember what we studied. That's like an adrenal response that when the body is stressed out, our brains go out the window, because when stress goes up, our brain is like on another wavelength. It's going somewhere else. So stress does affect how you think. You know, if you're feeling stressed out all the time, or you're letting yourself get stressed out all the time, guess what? It is going to affect your brain function. And then the things I've already mentioned, the poor nutrition, the poor circulation, and possibly head or brain trauma. Okay, on the essential acid, I'm sorry, amino acid profile, you know, check your protein powders, already said that. And then there's what they call essential amino acids, and essential only means you have to get them from foods because your body does not have them naturally. Like you have to get these amino acids. And so the list is isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, L-phenylalanine, which is dopamine, threonine, tryptophan, which is serotonin, and valine. So out of that list, serotonin and dopamine do not come naturally. If you're not getting them from foods, then you're not going to have them in your body. And then the non-essential amino acids are considered these, but I think they're essential too, because everything in the body is interacting and dependent on each other. If you're low in one thing, it can affect being low in something else. Like for instance, tryptophan doesn't convert to serotonin and melatonin without calcium. So it's not always just like this simple answer. Like sometimes when people say, well, I took 5-HTP, it didn't work for me. Well, maybe you have a calcium deficiency, you know, so you can't just like, it's like that spider web. Like I said, you can't just like pull out one thing and then not like look at everything, especially nutritionally. I want to talk about addictions because it has to do with dopamine. I'm sorry, Mary, I have to go again because he just will not stop. Eddie's having a meltdown, so I'll be right back. Let me see if I can.
Maybe we need to do a little pendulum and neutralize whatever Eddie's anxiety is. Did y'all douse and see what level your serotonin, your glutamine, your acetylcholine, and your dopamine is? I'd be real curious in the chat to see kind of what level you guys were at. And I am certainly learning something new. I didn't realize to look in protein powders for 20 or more amino acids. So yeah. Yeah, and Emily's put in the chat, if you are not a subscriber to the Lone Star Dowsers, she's got the email that you can sign up for that. And Gwen's email is in there as well.
And this is, I went and grabbed it while I was in there. This is the protein powder I really like. It's called Total Vegan for Life. It's yummy. It's not cheap. It's like $65, and it seems to be a set price because no matter where you buy it, it's the same price. And the amino acid profile on the back has them all. So if you're spending, I mean, you might be spending 40 or 50 for a good protein powder anyway, but if it doesn't have all the proteins, you're kind of just wasting money. I like this one a lot. So Total Vegan by New Medica. That's what I thought the name of it was, but then I started questioning myself. Okay, so back to addictions. Addictions go hand in hand with what we're already talking about. It has to do with the neurotransmitters. It has to do with dopamine. It has to do with serotonin. Addictive personality is a real thing. When someone's not addictive, their dopamine receptor sites are fine. And that's why people that are not addictive don't understand the addictive ones, because their neurotransmitters are not fine. And so that's why one person who's like, well, just stop drinking or just stop doing whatever, it doesn't work that way. You know, someone has one time, one addict told me that it's like suffering all the time, that they're not doing the thing that they're addicted to. They're literally suffering 24 hours a day because whatever's calling to them, or they want whatever, because this part of the brain isn't being fulfilled. And it doesn't matter if it's legal versus non-legal. I mean, opiates were legal and, you know, they're prescription, but there's a lot of things that aren't legal. There's still dopamine. You know, opiates are dopamine, crack, cocaine, heroin, ecstasy, kratom. These are all opiates. You know, whether you get them from a drug dealer or a doctor,
What is
doesn't matter.
kratom?
Kratom is a thing that's popular right now with young people, that it's legal, but it's an opiate. It's a white powder, and you can buy it like at smoke shops, basically. But it's an opiate, and right now it's legal in the US, but some people are trying to make it not legal. But it causes some health issues. I have some cancer people that have been taking it, but I don't like them taking it. And then they never feel quite right. They're always trying to fill this thing. You know, they're always trying to fill this need. And, you know, I mean, I heard with COVID, like, I know y'all have seen this on TV, but some of the mayors and governors, you know, when they were talking about essential, like, to me, I'm like, liquor store, really? Like, that's essential over the church? And they're like, yeah, we don't need to deal with an addiction or epidemic of addicts while we're dealing with everything else. So they did decide that liquor stores were essential, you know, so this falls into this category. They're often anxious or depressed. They're sometimes, I see this a lot. I had a case like this afternoon, a young man, 15, sensitive and empathic, and they're just trying to tune out their feelings. They have too much feelings. And so they go to drugs or alcohol to, you know, suppress. And this happens a lot to empaths and intuitives and people that just don't know what to do with all that. Same thing for addiction. I'm just going to mention it. It's the same stuff. It's the amino acids, it's essential fatty acids, it's the minerals, it's the vitamins, but especially L-phenylalanine and the neurotransactive, really important to satisfy those dopamine receptor sites. I'm going to give handouts to Mary that she's going to send out to everybody that's going to have, you know, some of this information. And I'm going to show you what.
We'll include it on the replay.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to get into solutions, and I'm going to tell you that one of the handouts is actually a dowsing list. So you're going to get a list of these, and you're also going to get an order form if you want to order products. So now he comes in here and he starts crying. Can you hear him, Mary?
We can.
Okay. I'm sorry. Hold on.
Okay.
Eddie, buddy. I'm going to try to hold him. Because like I said, he had a seizure shortly before the call, and then he's just very upset. I know, buddy. I know. Okay.
You need to run the Healy on him.
I had the Healy on and hoping that would make him calm, and it didn't really. He just, you know, I think he's a little disoriented, like you were talking about Rex. And when he's in this mode, nothing helps. It's just holding him and consoling him. So I'm sorry to have him whining.
Yeah.
Poor little guy.
I know. Then I wonder, do animals need these same kind of brain supports?
Yeah, I think his is more of an oxygen issue, and I'm putting ASO in his water, but you know, he just, when he's unhappy, he's unhappy. Okay, so on solutions. Now, this is really where I want you to douse, but you're going to get this list. So if you want to do it now, you can do it now. I'm going to tell you what my favorites are and why you would consider each one, but I'm going to go through it, you know, not too fast, but it's also on the handout. So don't worry about writing this down fast and furious. I don't even mind giving Mary this PowerPoint if it would help you guys. that you can go back into it later. What I like to do with information like this is douse each page, douse each remedy, douse each topic to see, you know, where it fits into your life. Oh, buddy.
Oh, let's just send Eddie some love.
Yeah, hold on. I can't hold him because it'll be too noisy right in front of the mic. Buddy.
Okay, Ellen's saying the PowerPoint would be great. Yeah, she's got so much good information. It does help to kind of go back and refer to it.
You would know this is the day that he didn't have a seizure all the time. It just happened an hour ago. Okay, so under solutions, Apex Neurotransactive is a homeopathic spray, and it takes care of all the receptor sites, dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, and glutamine. It is by far my favorite remedy because it has all 4 of those in one homeopathic spray. And it's easy because it doesn't barely have a taste. It's easy for kids. It's easy for whoever. And I put on here that this is sprays and liquids, because this page especially would be good for your young ones who don't want to take pills, or if you guys don't like pills and you prefer liquid. The next 4 are Apex products that are single. I just realized it's on there, but it's next to dopamine. So you see it's DopaFlow, Acetylflow, Serotaflow, and GABAFlow. These are individual bottles. When you only need one, you don't need all 4. But let's say dopamine is screaming at you. You douse and you got 90% on dopamine. Then you might consider just taking DopaFlow, because maybe you don't need them all. And taking them all isn't going to hurt you. It'd be like eating too much beef. It's not going to hurt you. It's just that you may just need one. And then if you feel like there's poor circulation affecting your brain, because like I said, these are the symptoms. Your hands and feet are cold. They're numb or tingly. You have like low brain energy, like your brain feels tired. You should consider the ASO oxygen or the herbs, etc. Remember Now, or because it has ginkgo in it. The main ingredient of that is ginkgo. And that's really good if you're trying to get your brain back. If you're in the can't remember SH category.
So that's Remember Now.
Remember Now is the name of Herbs, etc. is the brand, and Remember Now is the product, but the main ingredient's ginkgo. Okay. And then I have Intramax, which I love. And there's 2 types. There's adult Intramax, which I do recommend for older kids. It's a peach mango flavor, and it's like 415 nutrients in one bottle. And it's super good. It's all food-based. And then there's a kid one that's raspberry, which is more sweet. That the peach mango tastes like a peach mango vitamin. You know, it has a vitamin E taste. The kid one is raspberry flavored. But if it's an older kid who's like in sports and they need that adult nutrition, they need the adult one, because some kids are in like pro level, semi-pro level sports training, and they're not going to get away with a children's vitamin. And then other solutions that are in capsules, if you prefer a capsule over a liquid, is I really like Nature Sunshine Free Amino Acids, because it gives you all 22. So if you guys are buying amino acids, read the label. If you buy amino acids and it lists 7 of them, that's not a good product. Get rid of it. Buy anything that has 20 to 22, but especially all 22. And then if you want a single, again, a pill versus a liquid, there's only difference here. Pill versus a spray, pill versus a liquid. You have L-phenylalanine for dopamine. You have L-glutamine for glutamine support, which is anxiety, busy brain, worry. You have 5-HTP for serotonin, and GABA also for busy brain. GABA and glutamine are the same thing, basically. Like, but I would go with GABA if you're eating MSG and you want to get the GABA in first to block the MSG. Like if I don't have MSG on purpose, but let's say I'm going to a dinner, it's in a Mexican restaurant, and I'm going to have fajitas. I'm going to take GABA before I go, because if I get GABA into the brain to make that cell receptor site happy, then when the MSG comes in, it didn't do any damage. You see, it's like a thing to have in your purse or in your car as a preventative. And then more solutions. These are my favorites. So Dr. Christopher's Mind Track, amazing testimonies from people for brain support, clarity, focus, and memory. I've had people who thought they were having early dementia take Mind Track for a month and say, oh, my brain's back to normal. Tonic Alchemy, is anyone that knows me knows that's my favorite green food veggie support. Hannah's Ginkgo biloba It's a pill versus the other one's a tincture. Metagenics Nucera is really good just for calming and taking the edge off. Like if you need something today just to calm your butt down because you just feel like too high strung or you're getting things are getting you too upset, Nucera is a good option without tranquilizing you. You know, it doesn't make you tired at all. It just kind of makes you happy. And then C60 is my personal favorite for just energy. Like if you have long days and you're just like one of these people who's like, I'm so tired. My brain's tired. I'm tired. Everything's tired. My favorite for that is C60. And then I put iron only because if you're not eating beef, I have 2 irons. One's herbal and one's beef. Hemovite's a beef iron, like desiccated beef liver, and then Dr. Christopher's herbal iron. Any kind of bitter herb is high in iron. So like dandelion, chickweed, milk thistle, these are all like all your liver herbs are pretty much high in iron. But if you're low in iron because you're avoiding beef, and a lot of people avoid beef, it's very common for people to have had high blood pressure or heart attack scare, or just because they've chosen a non-beef diet for some reason. There's a lot of people not eating beef. It goes back to the protein shake and then at least the iron, because that's something that you're not getting in your diet. Then there's no other food-based source of iron except blackstrap molasses. I mean, how many people are eating that regularly? Like nobody. So, if you're not doing one, you should be doing the other. Okay, so that's all the stuff. I wanted to show you the handouts and then we can take questions. I know I went kind of fast, but I wanted to have time for the handouts and let you guys ask questions because you might have a personal situation. So this is the dowsing list that you guys are going to get from Mary. And it has bullet points on each item that if I went too quick for you, you can douse it on your own and see what percentage it's going to help you improve, whatever it is that you want to improve and with mood. And then the other one is an order form, basically, that has the same products and how much they cost. And those are all on sale for 1 week. I'm not going to extend this out for weeks and months like I did in January because it's just too hard for Lindsay and I to keep up with who was on this workshop. But if you're on this, not this in a workshop, but if you were on this call, this Lone Star Dowsers, you're getting special pricing on most products. A few dollars off on each thing. So be sure and mention if you don't use the order form that you were on the Lone Star Dowser call, and we'll give you that discount until April 1st. So Mary, that is what I have. So I think I did good on time. Is there anything you want me to go over more, you think, or do we just open it up for questions?
I think that is all really, I mean, my head is a little spinning. I'm realizing when I when I did the dowsing on my stuff that I was pretty low in serotonin and glutamine, and dopamine was like into the negative. Well, which would make sense when you're up multiple times. I guess you're not sleeping you're having interrupted sleep. So yeah, I'll be placing my order.
Well, I really am not, I of course will give you all the products you guys want, but really I want you to know, because so many people feel like anxiety and depression is like either in their genetics, or they feel like it's, they don't even consider it's just diet or foods or what they're not getting. And so many times, I mean, I can tell you that my results with clients on these specific issues is 2 to 3 weeks. If they're compliant, it's 2 to 3 weeks. And then, sometimes, honestly, with some other issues, like things that happen to them as kids, I get it. They have to do some additional work. But you got to rule out what's fixable with nutrition and then tackle the rest, is what I think.
Yeah. Wow. I think that's, what do you call it? Inspiration right there for people to kind of, look onto it. Okay, let's see. We've got some questions in the chat. Gwen, do you have a like a natural or a homeopathic vitamin D for kids?
I don't. I mean, mine is lemon flavored, but you can get there's vitamin D like chewies, and there's even vitamin D gummies. So you just look online. You can get flavored vitamin D things.
I think some of these are really maybe even younger, like babies type.
Yeah, with babies, I mean, it depends on even if they're eating food, but if it's a baby, I mean, if they're past breastfeeding, you could use like a few drops of, like you could use an adult vitamin D. Like this is a solution. If you have babies or kids, and if you can find things in liquid, grape juice is a great way to hide stuff. Grape juice, like Concord grape juice, has such a strong flavor that you can put a few drops of vitamin D in there, or a teaspoon, and they're not even going to notice. You can mix it into the protein shake. So it just depends on what, how old they are really. If you can get a protein shake in them, you can put stuff in the protein shake.
Okay, great. Do you have any other remedies for children with epileptic tendencies?
That would be CBD. I didn't put CBD on here because I don't really use it for anxiety and depression as much as other things, but it is very good for sleep and calming and seizures. I mean, that's what made it really famous in Colorado when people were talking about the Charlotte's Web strain. This is what put Colorado on the map for people relocating to Boulder and all these areas where they could get to the dispensaries, was because of epilepsy and seizures. And there's some stuff going on right now. Like I have a new product. I'll give you an example about CBD that's amazing. When I left Colorado, 500 milligrams of CBD was, I think it was $150. Well, when I was in Colorado, it was about $150 for Mary's Medicinals. That was the brand. Then it went to $120. Then it went to $80. Then it went to $60. It is now selling for $40. I have a 4,000 milligram CBD that's $60 something, $65. That's how much the prices went down on CBD in the last 6 or 7 years. So sometimes also with addictions, but epilepsy, seizures, pain, like chronic pain, instead of doing opiates, CBD is a good option. And I'd go with your higher milligrams because it's out there. I have one if someone's interested. I didn't put it on the sheet, but all you have to do is ask me. But you want to go with the higher potency CBD to get the real benefits.
Okay, great. Let's see. When you douse for brain chemicals, what are we asking, and what does the percentage mean?
Okay, so it depends on what you're at. It does depend on which way you're going. So if you're at, my question would be when I'm dowsing, what percentage is dopamine deficiency affecting me or negatively affecting me? So I'm asking how much dopamine deficiency is affecting me negatively. So that's my question. And if it's over 50, you should pay attention. If it's over 70, you need help. If I'm asking on the solution, it's kind of the same question. How much would L-phenylalanine help me with my depression? I wouldn't buy it if it's under 70%. If you're getting an under 70 on that question, then keep checking. There's something else that's going to work better for you.
Right. And I don't know if you saw in the beginning, but Gwen kind of gave an example of a dowsing chart that had like 0 to 100. And so it was just an easy way to use that to
I can pull it up again
to measure. So
yeah, I'll pull it up there.
Yeah, so you can see this would be, I don't know if you can see my thing, 0 to 100. So you just douse and ask the question like she recommended, and you can use a percentage chart for any number of things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Trudy is asking, can you do dowsing with someone over Zoom? Yeah,
I do it all the time.
Douse anywhere.
Yeah, I do it over the phone. Like I have a client who asks me a question and I'll douse it in the moment. So yeah, you don't even have to, all I have to do is think of the person. Or if I'm dowsing for myself, I'm asking, is this beneficial for me? But what if I want to ask for my granddaughter? I would just say, what percentage would this benefit Cheyenne for depression or for focus or for calming her butt down or whatever? So I would, yeah, you can do that real easily, long distance.
Okay, great. I'm looking to see if there's any, wow, Elaine got no to all deficiencies. She doesn't believe that. Well, so if you're doubting your question, you may want to, there's some things you do to make sure you're hydrated, typically, to make sure you're getting the right answer. And can't you rub K27s that can kind of help rebalance you? So the K27s are kind of like where you have your, your collarbone, you find the notch kind of like right below that. And sometimes rubbing that will help to rebalance so you have more accuracy. That was something
Also, I would say if you're getting no to those 4, that's only 4 things of maybe 20 possibilities. Maybe check I'll leave this up on the screen, but you're also going to get the handout. Check the solutions, because the solution then also tells you the problem. Like if you check yes for Intramax, then that means general nutrition. If you check, you get a yes for ASO oxygen, then that means, oxygen deficiency. Now I'm getting the low battery message, Mary. So I do need to get my charger, and I don't know why it's even doing that, but keep talking for 1 second. I'll be right back.
Yes. Gwen is available. She does private sessions. She sees people in person, and she also sees them long distance via Zoom, I guess. So yeah, and you can take her emails in the chat. So you can just email her and just say, hey, I want to get on your schedule for a session, or yeah, she's got her phone number there. You can call and during business hours and see about making an appointment. Yeah, because as you know, I mean, she crammed a lot into a into a very short amount of time. So Gwen will give you more information than you could ever possibly imagine. So yeah, I don't know how she does it. I guess she's taken all her amino acids and her Intermax.
My C60 too.
And her C60. So
I mean, everything that I'm telling you guys about, I take. I mean, this is how I can work till 9, 10 o'clock every night. So if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to.
Okay, someone's asking, I guess, do the Dowsers teach dowsing with rods? I don't know that we teach it. There are Dowsers in the group that definitely use rods, and rods are easier for different things. I think like when you're measuring like outside and you want to measure like energy things, or find water, where's the energy flow. For what I do, I find the pendulum to be really quick and efficient. Have you used rods, Gwen?
I have, but like a little bit. Like I've done it just playing around on property because of like checking, water and stuff they say you can do with it. I don't know that I would drill based on my rod ability. But I've just messed around with them. I have a set that I got in Boulder, but yeah, I haven't used them too much.
Yeah, when we meet in person again, and if Catherine Ashby comes, she's pretty proficient with rods, and I'm sure she can kind of tell you more about that. And there's something called a bobber, which is just like
I
a
have one of
singular
those too.
rod. And some people find that to be super efficient for different things. Frankly, mine jumped around so much it was kind of dangerous. I was kind of like popping myself. So
Robbie made me a custom one, and it's
He-
amazing. I like it. But yeah, I like a pendulum. I use the Hannah Kroger pendulum, which is a little stainless steel pendulum, and it's just so easy to use because it has a short chain and it's weighted really nice. I have pretty ones too. I have another one on my desk that's like pretty, but I don't like the swing of it as much. And then the crystal ones, they say you got to clear them. I just like mine is simple. They're $20, easy to
Right.
use.
And do you also sell those, Gwen?
I do. If someone wants a Hannah pendulum, I can send it to them.
Yeah. Would you make sure that that's on your little sheet?
I'll add it before I send it to you.
Okay.
I also forgot to mention, but I'm going to go back to this slide for a minute, that I am going to send you, there is a neurotransmitter handout that has the kind of symptoms, like if you're feeling this way, if you're feeling this way, and it's they're called the S and D and G and ACH group for serotonin, dopamine, glutamine, and acetylcholine. So for those of you that just don't trust your dowsing, I'm going to send that handout to Mary too, because it's really a self-assessment tool. It's a neurotransmitter self-assessment tool. So if you have a score higher than a 10 on those sections, then you probably would benefit from, everybody has stuff sometimes, you have 0 or 1, but if you get a 2 or 3 on a bunch of them, then you need support there. I would recommend support. So If you guys on the call are new to dowsing or just don't trust your dowsing, or don't douse or whatever, then that is another way to go about this besides the other symptoms that I read out to you.
Yeah, and maybe it's a good way to kind of practice. Check
Mhm,
your answers and then, fill it out and sort of see.
mhm.
Okay, let's see. Alan says that he uses dowsing rods and he can find almost anything, and he can actually do yes and no questions with a really good accuracy. Well, that's great. Yeah, I think that's a skill for sure.
Mhm.
There's a question in here. What's the cost for a session? And is it in person the same as a distance session?
Okay, so it's the same. I charge 150 for new clients and it's 90 minutes. I charge $75 for kids 18 to 25 because they're still your kids and you're paying for it. And then I charge $25 for kids under 17 and under. And then for follow-up appointments, I charge $100. What I was offering with this whole thing that I put in my newsletter was that if someone wants just a specific appointment for this, like your main thing is the mood and all the stuff we're dealing with tonight, and you want something custom instead of trying to figure it out yourself, then it would be $100 for 1 hour. So you don't have to do the new client whole thing. We can just tackle into this, get into your symptoms, give you your best solutions. So that's an option. If you want that, you need to tell Lindsay when you call to schedule that you want the 1 hour kind of lockdown special. I'll call it. I don't know what else to call that. Doesn't really have a name, but something we're doing right now.
The lockdown depression. Yeah.
Yeah. The lockdown. Yeah. It feels like you're in prison, the lockdown special.
Yeah, or the mental duress, yeah, session.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Do we have any other questions? Let's see. I'm hearing lots of thank yous. So I guess I do have a question. Like when people are having difficulty sleeping, I mean, I know part of that would be a neurotransmitter thing, and you probably recommend GABA or 5-HTP, but is there something else?
It can be that they need something. I mean, it depends, but generally they're going to make sure they're not having any MSG. The other thing, I didn't really mention this, but I'm seeing this a lot with people that are doing like green tea extracts, MCT oil. There's a lot of stuff on the market that's kind of new. Well, not new, but in the last few years, weight loss products that have like coffee bean extract or green tea extract. These are not good for sleep, even if you take them in the morning. MCT oil, I can't take that myself. If I took it in the morning, like in a bulletproof kind of coffee, I can't sleep at night. So first of all, look at maybe what you've added to your routine to see if it has any stimulating qualities. And some people can't tolerate it, even if it's just in the morning. Second thing is you got to cut MSG from your diet because that'll make the brain go into busy mode and hard to fall asleep. Some people say, well, I'm just like that. I had one kid that I remember they couldn't get this kid to go to sleep and she was missing school. And actually, I think she got kicked out of school. Um, and it turns out that her nighttime meal, this sounds awful, every single night for dinner, and I'm talking about 7 nights a week, she ate Wolf brand chili out of a can, microwaved on a bagel. Like it sounds weird. And a bag, like a big bag of hot Cheetos. This was her meal 7 nights a week. Well, guess what? The Wolf brand chili and the Cheetos loaded with MSG. And she had had a traumatic brain injury, which gave her no protection for food chemicals. And so this is what she ate every night. And she couldn't fall asleep till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, even on like Ambien and sedatives, she could not go to sleep. So you got to get MSG out of your diet for sure, 100%. Watch the stimulants. Some people have to give up coffee and tea completely. And then something should help, either melatonin or 5-HTP or even like valerian or something, calming. So and also depends on if you can't stay asleep or fall asleep. That's kind of two different issues. But like a dual release melatonin is a good option if you have troubles with both. But first, make sure your diet's clear of the things that would keep you awake.
And what about if you have interrupted sleep?
Well, like we were talking about dogs before the call, like if like me and you both have dog issues, there's nothing to fix that. There's no magic pill to
Kind of like
fix our.
having a new baby, right? That wakes you up, keeps you up a lot
It is.
in the night.
It is. And some nights are better than others. So there's no fix for that. If you're in the bed with a partner who snores like a train, there's no fix for that. Like some things, like you don't want to take a sedative to knock you out to that degree, because that's going to have the hangover effect. That's going to have some of the potential negative side effects of sleepwalking, sleep driving, sleep eating. Sometimes people need to go into a different bedroom. Sometimes people have to kick their pets out of the bed. I mean, I'm not going to do that with Eddie, because, I think he needs me at night. So I'm there for him. So it just depends. But if someone's really sleep deprived to where you can't function, you're not getting stuff done, you're just like walking around with a zombie. Yes, you have to do something. So it depends. But some people are such light sleepers that they'll wake up when the AC kicks on, or, they'll hear something that's outside down the road, like a car or truck going by. You shouldn't be sleeping that lightly. If that's the case, then again, you need some help, like something's deficient or something's out of balance.
It's funny. I have heard a lot of Ambien stories where people take it and they do all that stuff you were talking about and have no memory of it.
Mhm.
So
It's
that's a
actually
little
very
scary.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Ambien's very dangerous. And a lot of people take it. A lot of people take clonazepam. I mean, that's a major psych drug, and people are taking it to sleep. And I think it's kind of crazy, but whatever. But Ambien specifically, people have gotten in their cars and driven places sound asleep. They have no idea what they're doing. So that's not good. I know of one of my client stories is their son. Well, the son was grown. He was in his 20s, but he opened up the door and walked outside, and he got lost in the neighborhood. And he's a grown 20-something-year-old. So, I mean, can you imagine that happening to like an elderly person or a person who already has like dementia or partially having issues like that? But I've had a few clients too that, will devour a whole chocolate cake all night and not remember that they ate it, because, the next day they're like, what happened to the cake? And they ate it, so it's like they look in the mirror and they got chocolate on their mouth, so it's pretty nuts.
Okay, let's see. Susan says, I've taken 5-HTP and had terrible exhaustion afterwards, but just doused and it shows low level serotonin. What could cause this?
Okay, some people, there's something called peak X with 5-HTP. You want to make sure that the 5-HTP you're using is peak X free. So that's one thing, and that's a very technical chemical thing that you want to avoid. Sometimes it's just taking a different variation of it or trying a different brand. Sometimes it's the amount you took. Like, I personally don't think 50 milligrams is even worth doing. I mean, it just doesn't seem to have any effect. I tell people between 100 and 400 milligrams, but usually to try like 200 milligrams. Sometimes people that have like kind of liver processing issues, like if you have an opposite reaction to like Benadryl or NyQuil, you can have the same reaction to anything. Some people have to take 5-HTP during the day and it works at night, because if you're one of those people that has these opposite reactions to everything, you might want to try taking it during the day. But if someone has like a headache or migraine from 5-HTP, which rarely happens, but if that happens, it's usually because of the brand. It has some stuff in there that you're reacting to. Yeah, I mean, you're not reacting to serotonin. Like you could just try like the Sirota Flow, for instance, which is in like a juice. It's like a juicy, good tasting thing. Or you could even try the homeopathic version, which doesn't have any actual 5-HTP in it, but it's the homeopathic version of serotonin. You can try like a dual release melatonin. So there's lots of options. If someone has a bad reaction, I usually just tell them to try something else, but I'm really talking about 1 in 1,000 or less. Like in a year, I might have one person tell me they had a bad reaction to 5-HTP.
Yeah, I used to remember it would kind of upset my stomach. But I was that one and whatever. I think, yeah, the dopamine probably really is helpful for me. Let's see. Do we have any other questions? There's been so much good information going on. So if I'm going to recap, if somebody's feeling depressed or feeling like they're having mental issues where they're, uh, concerned about not being able to remember things and not get stuff done. So if if I got it, you're number one, checking, what are you eating, right? What nutritional deficiencies have you got first? Start there, address that, and then if there's other underlying issues, maybe some emotional pieces of things, then address that.
Yeah, and I would just still go back to this list because even with that, even with brain function, it's most likely either low oxygen to the brain. No, I mean, I guess oxygen is kind of a pet peeve of mine because I had carbon monoxide poisoning and I know how the brain does not work with lack of oxygen. I mean, I was a severe case. I bought a hyperbaric chamber to fix myself. That's how desperate I was. But there's lots of reasons for low oxygen, either acidity, low iron causes poor circulation and low oxygen levels. Not being hydrated can affect circulation and oxygen. So whenever I'm thinking about the brain, it's like I said, we're talking about blood going uphill and your whole brain is dependent on blood flow. So is your vision and hearing and everything. So I probably would go with, I mean, the top two for brain to me is nutrition and circulation. So I would still use the same list and, douse, which things here are being affected because it could be general nutrition and you're not getting enough protein. It could be that you're not eating the fatty fish, which is so important for brain health, but it can also be that you just don't have great circulation. You're not exercising enough. You're not drinking enough water. It's really the basic stuff. But if someone doesn't eat beef and they're not getting iron, lack of iron causes just as much brain issues as it causes fatigue and the more common symptoms of what people think of as anemia.
Well, I can't remember which deficiency it was, but you said you can't start a new habit. You can't.
That's serotonin.
Yeah. So you kind of got to make sure that's good, so you can, so the desire to exercise even is there.
Well,
Yeah.
when people tell me they can't do something new, like if I say, okay, I want you to follow the blood type O diet, or I want you to whatever, and they're like, I'm bad. Anything I try to start new, I can't. It's automatic. They're getting serotonin. Like if someone tells me they literally cannot, they have lots of ideas and they never happen, like automatically, you guys, you should think serotonin, 5-HTP, Serotoflow, any kind of tryptophan product, any foods high in tryptophan, which is meat, turkey, stuff like that. You definitely want to increase those in your diet.
Okay. I had another question I was going to ask you. The I think I need some serotonin. Let me see if I can remember this. Oh, all right. We were talking about oxygen. So I've been reading a bunch of things lately, but that people are, and I don't want to open a big can of worms as we're going to wrap up, but part of how COVID affects people has to do with the oxygen in the blood, right? That your hemoglobin can't perform its function because it doesn't have the oxygen. And
Mhm.
same thing, there's different information out about people being affected by 5G, and it's same thing. It doesn't allow the oxygen to do its job in the blood. So it seems like that so how would somebody use the ASO oxygen that you've got?
Actually, I didn't ever carry that product before. It came on the radar because of COVID. So this is definitely a COVID specific product because of the respiratory distress and because of the low oxygen and lung capacity. And so I don't have one on my desk, but I have one in my kitchen. I even put it in my dog water bowl because of my older dog who needs that extra oxygen. So you just I just take a swig out of the bottle, but it's 1 teaspoon, like 2 to 3 times a day. And I tell people to do it before 6 p.m. because it makes you very mentally alert. And I have a person, I don't think she's on the call, but anyway, I won't say her name, but I told her she needed the ASO oxygen, and she is sending me like all these people just to buy this product because she thinks it's the best thing since sliced bread. When people have had like sluggish brain function and all of a sudden they have oxygen and everything is awake and working on all cylinders, it feels amazing. It feels like, where was that for the last however many years, you know? So she is like literally telling everyone she knows. She does social media stuff, and now these people are calling me, so and so said get ASO, I want 2 bottles. You know, I'm like, okay. So it is really amazing when the brain starts working like it should. It's almost like if you think of the the ceiling opening and you can see the light, it's like, wow, it's bright out there versus like, it's kind of slow and dingy and dark, kind of stuff. So I like ASO oxygen for any kind of circulatory disorders, but definitely on hand for if you have, any wheezing or any breathing issues or feel shortness of breath, which can also be vascular. So it's just a really great product. And you definitely don't want to buy it online because it's almost twice what I charge for it. I've seen it $50 to $70 online for the 8-ounce bottle. Mine is like 30 and it's on sale right now. No, it's 35, I think. So you want to not buy it online. Some of the products too, I'll just tell you about Apex. I've said this on calls before, but Apex products are at least double on Amazon of what I charge. So I know some people are into the convenience of Amazon and the fact that they get free shipping, but guess what? If the product is $20 and on Amazon it's 60, it's not worth the $40. I can pay, you can pay me extra for shipping if you want it overnight, but it's not worth paying double or triple to get it on Amazon. It's just silly. So check the prices on some of the things, because I know with Apex, everything on Amazon's double or triple. And there's no real other place to buy those. So you just definitely want to, compare. But I do want to say, Mary, too, as a recap from my perspective, if you go through the dowsing list, just remember that you're dowsing 2 things, kind of underlying problem percentage, best solution percentage. That's always how I look at things. Your solution also then tells you the problem, because if oxygen is your best solution, let's say out of all these things, these 3 pages, let's say you doused all of these, and let's say ASO oxygen, you got 95% and nothing else you got close, then that tells you that your oxygen deprivation is also probably your biggest problem. So that's the simplest I can make it. If you were to see, like if you got to Hemovite and that was your number 1, your highest percentage on giving you the best solution for your issues, then that tells me you don't have enough iron. You're not eating enough beef. You're not getting it from food. And I always would rather people get things from food. But culturally and with different belief systems, people are not going to eat foods they don't want to eat. I just know. Like if you don't like vegetables, you need to supplement something. If you don't eat beef, you need to supplement. If you're missing whole food groups from your diet, I'm sorry, but you have to supplement. If you're willing to eat a balanced diet with meat and protein and seafood and veggies and nuts and seeds and fruits, you're going to probably be okay. Or you're probably not on this call, actually. Except me and you, Mary. But you know what I mean? Like, it's like if you're getting all the food groups, and I don't mean bread, milk, and all that crap from school, I mean the real foods, then you're better off than most people. But because of your diet or because of weight loss or because of your religious beliefs or whatever, if you're missing entire sections, you're going to have to supplement. I hate to be the one to say that.
Well, and sometimes people find that easier, I'd rather pop
Mhm.
a pill than, or take a drink than of tonic alchemy versus eat, 8 servings of vegetables.
You're right. And some people tell me that. Some people say, I'm not going to do it, so just tell me what to take.
So we're always all looking for that softer, easier.
I know. And there is no magic pill, no matter what anyone says. There isn't one pill that's going to fix everything.
No, there's not. But at least we've got some tools and we have a checklist that we can kind of go by and check out. Let's see. I see one more question here. Okay. So blood type, how much beef do we need to, blood type A, how much beef do we need to eat?
That's a great question. If you're an A, I would recommend a digestive enzyme with beef, because when they say avoid on blood type A, they don't mean you're allergic to it. They mean it's a food that your body naturally probably doesn't digest super well. So if you're an A, only A's and ABs, you should take a digestive enzyme that has hydrochloric acid. Like HCl Prozyme is one by Apex that I like. And people, okay, so the same is true with nutrition. So this is a great ending question. Even with the nutritional supplements, because this question always seems to come up too, how long do I have to do this? It depends. Like in the beginning, when you're deficient, you have to think of things like loading dose. Like you're deficient, like you're, let's say if you check and your serotonin's at 10%, your levels of serotonin, well, you need to get it up to 100, or above 80. And that's going to take you a little bit of time and maybe a higher dose than you always have to do. Or just like with the question with beef, until you can eat enough beef, supplementing is sometimes just faster and easier to see results. Then when you start feeling great, you can start backing off. So my answer to beef is it depends. Like if you're having a lot of symptoms of these amino acid deficiencies and iron deficiency, then I would eat beef as much as you can. Out of, let's say 21 meals a week, 5 to 7. But you don't have to do 5 to 7 always. You can then go to like 3 to 5. But you have to get the needs met first. So also the same is true of supplements. When people ask me, well, how long do I have to do this? Okay, go to 3 or 4 weeks, feel better, feel good, see what that feels like. And then when you back off, you get to some point that you start regressing. When you get to that point of regressing again, you know that you've went too far. You need more than that. This happens all the time with my clients. They start feeling better. 3 months, they're like, yay, I'm happy, everything's done. 6 months, they're calling me again. What happened? They stopped taking everything. So 6 months was enough time for everything to become deficient again, and they had to restore again. So I wouldn't say stop completely, but it also depends on your food. So it's not the same answer for everybody. If you're changing your diet and taking supplements, it's going to happen faster and you're going to need less supplements. If you're not doing any supplementation and depending only on foods, it really, it all depends. But basically, get feeling good and then start backing off. One other thing I want to say that I didn't mention, but it's important, is if you're on drugs, like psych drugs, like Wellbutrin, Zoloft, Paxil, any of the SSRIs, Prozac, any of those, you weren't deficient in those drugs. That wasn't a Prozac deficiency that got you there. You were deficient in either serotonin and dopamine, most likely. So what SSRIs do is it's like I don't know the right word to say. It's almost like taking the little bit of serotonin you had and making it more efficient, but it's not giving you serotonin when that's what you needed in the first place. So when that little bit you had is like squeaked out of there and you felt better temporarily, and then you stop feeling better, it's because they never gave you what you were really needing. So there's no danger of taking amino acids on psych meds. But if you are on those kind of medications, you should either talk to me or talk to your doctor, because some doctors will say, well, if you're on this, you shouldn't take this. But honestly, it's just nutrition. The doctor's not going to say don't eat beef. It's just the doctors are not very well versed in nutrition to begin with. So they really don't know. Another thing I want to reference, Mary, just real quick, is Dr. Amen's work, or any of the books like Brain Factor, Brain Code. Anything about Dr. Amen are good books for just kind of, if you want to really learn how the brain works and how these amino acids work to make everything work on all 8 cylinders. There's lots and lots of information out there in the last 10 years about the brain and nutrition, more than ever, like lots and lots of stuff.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I think that that's a lot. We've gotten lots of thank you, and this was great in the chat. Kelly's excited. She's like, I can't wait to get the replay fast enough. So
okay, that's a glutton for punishment if you already went through it. But I get it that sometimes it's too fast, and I was trying to cover a lot of material in the time we had, but I don't think it was too quick, because you're going to get the handouts. So you guys can go back through it on the handouts, because really what you need to do is for you decide personally which is most important, like which things to address and which solutions. And even if they're not my products, go for something similar. Ginkgo is pretty much ginkgo, no matter where you get the ginkgo. I mean, some qualities are better.
I don't think that was a complaint. I think that was she's looking forward to the replay so she can kind of reabsorb all the information that we
Yeah,
covered
no,
tonight.
I wasn't taking it as a complaint. I was taking it like, poor thing has to listen to this twice. No, so it wasn't a complaint at all. I didn't take it that way.
I don't think anybody is complaining. So it's just it's good. And are you kidding? I have worked with you so much and studied with you, and I still learn new things every time we talk. So I just want to say thank you so much. This has been great, and we're gonna send this recording out to everybody that's on the email list, and it'll also be on our Facebook page, which is Lone Star Dowsers. And I think we have a YouTube channel, so eventually that, and we'll share it with Gwen. And Gwen, you're welcome to share it with all your peeps.
I will.
So the information will just be out there circulating. So, and if you're excited by all this and you're not on the Lone Star Dowsers email list, please join up so you can make sure when we have, we once a month we'll, sometimes we meet in person, depending on how that is. But actually I would say being able to do it on Zoom has opened it up to so many more people in different places. So that's been kind of fun and exciting too. So
That's what I said when I sent out my newsletter. It's great because people that normally can't make it to the meetings and people outside of Houston can participate. So I actually like it a lot.
right, and then we get to record it so that if you didn't get to make it to the meeting, you you have the information, and we've just got some great people that
But
come
we're
and share
missing
their
the
stuff.
hugs. We're missing all
I
the
am missing the hugs. I
we're
am
missing
the
the
hugs.
interaction.
Right. And we have Susie and Dr. Scott are in Arizona. So they're sending their love. They're excited to be here. So all right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you so much, Gwen. This has been wonderful. And see you next month.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Mary. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Bye, everybody.